So hello everyone and welcome to the Deercast. It has been 6 months since we've done an episode like this, but this is another episode where it is just Harold and I. So I was actually, funnily enough, earlier today listening back to our last episode where we did one of these and it was February. We're recording this in August. It'll probably be a little bit later by the time we actually get this episode out to you guys. But listening back to that last episode, I realised a huge amount has changed or has happened since then. So when we last met, we were telling you guys about our new chiller, or each of our new chillers that were due to arrive. Some new Roe ground we'd taken on. I was looking at a new Leica Ampler scope. Harry was looking at a new moderator and a new bipod. And since then, I mean, we've got updates on all those things, but we've also interviewed a ton more guests. We've also been to the stalking show, and it's been the Roe rut. I can't believe we waited this long to do one of these episodes, so it might go on for hours. I guess I'm forewarning you. So yeah, welcome.
Welcome. Good to chat.
It is. So looking back on what we discussed last time, I have a slightly kind of guilty confession in that I was looking at a new Leica scope for my kit plough. Just thought I'd get that in there earlier.
Get the kit plough in, yeah.
Yeah.
Kit plough in the first 10 seconds.
Yeah. And I made a slight mistake there in that, and I'm, well, as hopefully you guys as listeners will know by now, I'm not afraid to admit my mistakes. I bought a Leica Ampler 2.5 to 15 by 56 or something, and I put it on my kit plough, and it looked ridiculous. It was absolutely massive.
It's a big scope for any rifle.
It is a big scope, and like any man, I was not prepared to admit my mistake. So I did what every sensible man would do, and I mounted that on my other rifle, and decided to buy another scope for the K3, and went for a Leica Fortis 6 with a little 42mm objective lens. I learned my lesson this time, and it's been absolutely awesome since.
And it is lovely.
Yeah.
And it suits the rifle perfectly. And it's quite light, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which is the key.
Light and small and just kind of...
But it does have a ballistic turret, so that is...
So you had a...
sacrilege.
Yeah.
But there you go.
I didn't realise I'd think until I listened back to our last episode how much against a ballistic turret you were for the kit plough, and I was only listening back to it today. I was like, oh god, I really didn't pick up on that at the time, which just shows like how blinkered you can be when you're like heading in a certain direction. But it served me well.
I think you've done it just to spite me.
Yeah, maybe.
And a moderator as well. Anyway,
I think, yeah. But it's done really well, and it's done exactly what I wanted that rifle to do, and it's been an amazing kind of like travelling companion and Roe Buck rifle. So I've had a ridiculously busy Roe Buck season. I think I've had between 15 to 20 Roe Buck this season.
Bloody hell, that's good.
Yeah. Some mine, some not mine, in terms of on other people's ground. But yeah, it's been busy.
What's your view of the Leica? Because you previously had Schmidt.
Yeah.
To compare and contrast, Schmidt, because you had quite a similar Schmidt scope.
Yeah.
You've replaced it with an almost like for like Leica. What's the pros and cons?
So the Leica, and I've said this before on some of our review videos as well, is that I don't know whether this is unique to Leica or whether it's just like the perfect kind of meshing of optical glass and my eyes. But I tend to find the colours in Leica glass, whether that's binoculars or rifle scopes, just seems to like pop for me. I don't know what that is, and I don't really know a better way of describing it. But I've looked through Swarovski stuff before, and you look through it and you're like, yeah, it's good, but it never kind of slapped me in the face and went, come on, like you want me. Whereas the Leica stuff I did, and I was like, this stuff's really good. And most of the listeners will probably, well, they will have seen by now, we did a video a couple of nights ago, or a couple of weeks ago actually, because since buying a couple of Leica scopes, we've kind of fostered a bit of a relationship with Leica, and they've sent us another scope to test, but also some of their binoculars to test. And we did an experiment the other night where we had a 56mm objective lens scope and a 42mm objective lens scope, both from Leica, and at exactly the same time of night, kind of sat them side by side and looked through them and were like, can you see any difference? Because I think most people are being persuaded you've got to go for a 56mm or, I don't know, you lose half an hour of hunting time. And actually we could see no difference whatsoever in these two scopes. And I think...
Well, they're the same mag. On the same mag.
Yeah. So I mean that's the only caveat, is that on the bigger objective lens scope, as you'd started wounding up the mag, you probably would have had better light. But I think we set, I can't remember if it was 7 power or 8 power, which, to be honest, in low light, like you'd kind of hope you didn't need to go beyond that kind of mag range anyway. So
I think that's where they come into their own.
Yeah.
The bigger objective lenses. When you get into sort of 10, 12. Sort of mag. But, you know, in fairness, at last light, you probably don't necessarily want to be that far zoomed in anyway if you're shooting something that's probably going to run a little bit and you're going to struggle to find it in the scope. And I think it's 42mm objectives are pretty nice.
I think they just, for me, especially on like the kit, like, it just suits that rifle that much more. It just makes the whole thing feel less unwieldy and less bulky and
because it's a light rifle anyway.
Yeah.
How much does it weigh? You're really testing.
I can't remember. Is it like 2 kilos maybe?
2 kilos?
Or was it less than that?
I thought it'd be more than that. I thought it'd be like 5 or 6 kilos. Maybe I'm just.
Maybe.
I've got a 2 kilo weight at home. There's like a sort of like a Pilates weight, and it literally is nothing.
I'm googling it as we speak. So bear with me.
Or maybe mine's 6 or 7 kilos. Hard to tell, isn't it?
2.5 kilos.
No.
Yeah.
2.5.
Yeah.
That's
they are freakishly light.
That's crazy. Because that's right. Mine's about. Mine all loaded up. I think it's about 6 when I put it on the scales.
Yeah. So I was going to say the scope is 700 grams.
Yeah.
So by the time you've then probably added mount and a mod, that's probably another kilo. So you're at like 3.5 kilos.
Yeah.
Fully kind of kitted up, ready to go.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. You don't get much kick from it.
No. Which I was expecting, because because you've not got an action and you've got a 20-inch barrel, so like a short barrel, like you'd think it would really like kick, but I think actually not having an action means when the cartridge goes off, it's closer back into your shoulder.
Oh.
So actually, and then again, I think the fact it's a light rifle, I don't know, I think it almost works the other way. There's just not as much rifle. I don't know whether there's not as much rifle to kick or whether actually the rifle does kick, but because it's so light, you just don't really notice it. I don't know.
So you're shooting 130s?
150s out of
150s?
out of the K3.
Wow. That's surprising.
So
it doesn't bite.
Yeah.
Sure.
It seems to quite like heavy bullets. And it's not a sharp like punch to the shoulder, it's kind of just like a bit of a gentle open palmed like shove if someone was to give you one.
It's amazing how like a well balanced and built rifle actually somehow by magic manages to manage recoil.
Yeah.
Because I've shot some like very cheap and very expensive shotguns, and there's a note like it's not just trickery with like pads and things. Like I've shot an H&H shotgun with no butt pad at all, like straight on timber, and it's just like, just like it doesn't kick, it doesn't like bite.
No.
You feel the recoil, but it's like
it
just moves in a nice way.
Yeah.
I can't really describe it. There's probably no science behind it. It's probably it's one of those things that's probably all in your head. But
I was about to say, I'm so in love with the Kiplouf that it probably kicks like an absolute fucking mule, and I'm just like, I don't notice it because I love it. But yeah.
Good old Kiplouf.
So you've had some important updates since we last met. So you finally have, well, I find this quite funny. You finally got a binocular harness that would fit your ridiculous binoculars, and then you replaced the binoculars anyway. It was literally within the space of about 2 weeks.
Yeah, I did do. Although I did replace them with some enormous other binoculars.
Yeah.
That probably would have been slightly too big for any normal harness anyway. So I think that's fine. So yeah, I got a Alaska Guide Creations. What's it called? It's called like a Sam Thompson put me onto it. It's got some like really American name, like the Mule or something.
Yeah.
It's like the biggest binocular harness you can possibly buy on the market, and it's huge. It's incredible. Denali, that's it. Denali.
Yeah.
It's got this like massive great pocket on the front, so you can get the thermal in it. It's got like a little phone holder on the top. It's really good. It's like a big bit of kit.
Yeah.
And yeah, it fit my submarine commander binoculars in beautifully. But I then got a very tempting offer from somebody for a pair of like, what were they, 90s Swarovski?
Yeah.
What are they? They are 7.5 by 52 binoculars. So they are big.
Yeah.
You wouldn't fit them in your binocular harness because they're quite long. So I was like, well, it's too good an opportunity to pass up, basically. So yeah, I chopped in the submarine commanders.
Are they gone and sold?
Yeah, on eBay. Yeah. Some poor sod has got them. Some lucky sod, I suppose.
They probably arrived and he's like, holy shit, these are much bigger than I was anticipating.
Yeah, good luck. Club a dish, definitely.
So, are you enjoying the whole Bino Bra experience of everything all in one place?
Yeah,
yeah.
Because you can put having your thermal in it is a big thing for me because I was having it on like an extra strap, which is a real faff. Like I've got my knife in there, I've got my dragging ropes on there. It's even got a little pocket for your phone. Like you can put your gloves in there. Like everything is just in one place.
Yeah.
And it's kind of in a place where you're not really going to like bump it or sit on it, or it doesn't really get in your way on your front in the same way that a bum bag does. Like, because I do quite a lot of like high seat stalking. I was in the fallow season. Like the bum bags, they kind of just get in the way when you're kind of came to the high seat, and then you've got to reach around to get stuff out of them and yada yada yada. So I like it. It's good. I'm a Bino harness convert, I would say, and the Swaros I'm very happy with. They're absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Very, very pleased indeed.
You've now got a moderator on your rifle. Thank the fecking Lord.
Yeah, I've been deafening Tom when he forgot on his ear defenders, which he wasn't very happy about. So I've splashed out on a rather expensive Freya and Devik. I don't know which one it is. I think it's the biggest one you can get, basically.
Yeah.
For my 308, which is beautiful. It is. And I literally, I don't treat anything like I treat this moderator. Like I literally, I bathe it when I get home every night. It gets so clean and oil, and a little kiss goodnight, and put away to bed. Because it's just like they're not cheap. It's kit. I mean, it's lovely, and it makes a hell of a difference at recoil and sound wise. But yeah, they're not cheap, so you got to look after them. I think that's the trick. And I've read there's been a couple of threads on the stalking directory, which I'm sure people know about, saying that they kind of all disintegrate, which is in the back of my head. So trying to actually look after it, which has been a bit of a challenge.
Because what are you shooting through your 308 now? Are you still the Barnes 110 grains?
I've gone back to the Barnes. Yeah, we were doing the Nielsen Sonic 110 and 130 grains, which were interesting, to say the least. I don't know if we probably haven't talked about this since.
Not on the actual podcast.
No,
I'm sure we've done
videos.
videos. Yeah.
But I think we were talking about using them, and we have used them, and a good friend of mine uses them quite a lot in 25-06. And obviously Ben, he uses them from Deerbox, and he imports them. And we talk about them in the podcast with him quite a bit, and they're a really interesting bullet. They're not really like anything else out on the market, in the way that they kind of deform and the way they work. And they do work. I didn't have a great initial experience with them. We went out roe stalking, and I neck shot a roe, and it was like plumb dead straight through the neck, shot wise, and then the deer got up and sort of started waddling off, and it was as if the bullet had kind of gone round the spine, so it was really strange, and they do a lot of meat damage.
I was going to say, because before you shot that roe, on the same outing, you'd shot a muntjac.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know it's easy to do with a muntjac anyway, because they are small animals.
Yeah.
But it basically turned one side of it into like a colander, hadn't it?
Yeah. It was entry wound, 4 exit wounds.
Yeah.
Which is the same with every Nielsen Sonic bullet, like path, if you like. Because they split into 4 pieces, so you're always going to have quite a lot of heat damage. And if you shoot something, it's not very forgiving. If you shoot something a bit far back, especially a smaller deer, you're more than likely going to nick the stomach. Whereas if you had a more traditional bullet, you probably would get away with it, which is not great. But they're good on fallow. I think they work a lot better on fallow than they do on smaller deer, because I shot 2 or 3 fallow with it. It was actually quite impressive. But I really like the Barnes 236. Shot lots of fallow, then they work. 110 grain, quite fast, quite flat. Meat damage is not brilliant, but for me, I'd rather more meat damage and more sort of killing power than the other way around. So for me, they work really well, but they are quite fast, so that's something to bear in mind.
So we try again. I'm trying to think about what we have and haven't discussed on the actual podcast versus YouTube, and the lines kind of like blur. But I don't think we mentioned it. We got sent some yew tree bullets to try, didn't we? Which we've tried on range, but not actually on live quarry yet. And on the range, I mean, they're like, neither of us are the best reloaders in the world.
Amazing, weren't they?
But we put some trial groups together, and they were honestly going through the same hole.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Crazy.
Unbelievably accurate, and people do rave about them, so we should give them a good go.
We should. I have promised we'll get some out on some early season prickets and kind of see what they end up doing.
Yeah, we're recording this right at the start of the fallow season, so we should have ample opportunity to test them out.
So talking of fallow season, you've been out and had some.
Yeah, I've had a brace, which was nice.
Nice
little start.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just plenty around. Typical start of the fallow season, they don't really know what's what. So I shot the first one and then had another one, and they basically all stood around looking at the one that I just shot. And so it's sort of like,
here you go, boys.
Going to change very quickly. How about you, Tom? What's your season look like so far?
So I've had 3 fallow, all of which have convinced me that fallow are just absolute twats, and I just don't like them anymore.
Already.
Which
started the season.
I know, I'm worried about. So part of it is my own fault, in that I was out with a friend on Friday night last week, and we seem to have quite a lot of big sort of fallow bucks kicking around at the moment, and there was one sort of slightly shitty smaller one there, and we decided to shoot that one. Larder weight, he was 77 kilos, and just like
smaller deer.
Yeah.
Small prickets.
And having been used to shooting just Roe Buck for the last few months, that you can like chuck over your shoulder, fling into a carcass tray, like pretty easy to skin and all the rest of it. Suddenly dealing with that monster, I just thought, I don't know why I do this.
Well, imagine doing that on your own as well.
Yeah.
Like that would have been, you'd need ramp and winch and all of that jazz. You don't have a winch for them.
No. So he broke my carcass tray, he bent my Napier auto click, and I'm pretty sure he broke my soul and my spirit. Like getting him in and out of the car, the chiller, everything was just a nightmare. The only pleasant experience was when I turned up at the butcher's that I'd sold him to, and they collected him out of the boot and basically almost died carrying him, and then had to fork over 200 quid for the privilege. And I was like, thank you very much, see ya! So yeah, I don't know, so I'm taking a slightly different approach to the fallow this season anyway, in that I'm not going to clobber anything really until March, so I'm just going to kind of tinker around the edges, knock off a couple of prickets. Maybe.
What's your thinking behind that?
So I was guided by Owen Beardsmore, who is a guest you guys will hopefully hear on the podcast soon. We recorded an episode with him a while ago, and I was chatting to him, and his theory was if you go at the fallow too hard in August, September, you will basically educate them for the rest of the season. And so therefore, you by all means have the odd one or two here or there, but kind of wait until November kicks in, and actually in some ways leave the prickets and the bucks alone, because they're not really the ones that increase the population size anyway. So leave them, and then basically just literally declare war on all of them as soon as the 1st of November comes around.
November, December.
So
that's interesting, because your and my fallow seem to disappear in November, December.
Yeah.
So that'd be interesting to see if that makes any difference.
I was just about to, it's a slightly dangerous strategy, because looking back through previous cull records, I do a lot of the culling in August, September, October. In terms, if you looked at how many fallow I cull in a year, quite a big portion is in those first 3 months. And so therefore, if I miss that, come November, I might hate myself, because I might be, November, December, I might be like playing catch up. But we'll see.
You might have quite a job on your hands come November, December. And I love deer stalking, but wet December, like doe culling, is not the most pleasant work. It's where it becomes a chore.
Yeah.
At times when you're like, all right, I've got to hit the cull target, got to get out in the high seat. It's 5 degrees.
Yeah.
It's pissing with the rain.
Well, I've got a heated gilet and heated gloves now, so I'm going to be living the life of Riley.
God damn it.
I also now know who to blame. So in December, January, if this strategy turns out to be a complete failure, Mr. Rowan Beardsmore will get it.
There you go. Yeah, because it's also high risk, because if they still disappear in November, December, that will be a light year.
I've done an abysmal job.
Yeah. Wow. Be interesting experiment. Yeah. I think I'm going to aim for consistency and try and shoot and try just to have a consistent, maybe one a week or something.
Yeah.
For the whole season. I don't know. Try that, because I have previously in the past, really clobbered them really clobbered the brickets in August, and then really clobbered the does come 1st November, and yeah, it's been quite up and down. So be interesting. Very interesting to see. Sorry, go on.
We both now have new chillers.
Yeah.
Which I think is quite an important thing to mention.
Yeah, definitely. Good bits of kit. We've had them for a while now as well, so we can have a proper chat about them.
Yeah, so they're from Cool Game.
Yeah.
Are they the LU 10,000 or something?
10,000, yeah.
Partly grant funded through the Farming in Protected Landscapes Grant Fund, so anyone who's out there in an area of outstanding natural beauty, it's something you definitely ought to have a look at.
Yeah. Definitely.
It's it's kind of, I would describe it as like a semi-commercial deer larder, in that it would fit like 5 fallow.
I think you might get 6, because I think you get 3. It's like a big stainless box basically with just a normal air conditioning chiller unit knocked onto it, and it's got 2 rails. Yeah. And you could very comfortably fit 2 fallow on them, because I haven't had more than 3 in it before. But I think you could get 3 on either side. A bit of a squeeze. Yeah. Which is more deer than I've ever had in my chiller at once. So that'd be really interesting. But yeah, they're basically they're between a kind of coke fridge and a proper bespoke built chiller. Yeah. And really nicely made from Germany, so all nice and proper. Everything's stainless steel. I wouldn't say that they're the cheapest piece of equipment you're going to have bought in your entire life. No. I think without the grant, I would have struggled to justify it. You could have done a similar thing with 2 coke fridges for a lot less money. Yeah. Or repurpose a kind of domestic fridge with a bit of retrofitting. Probably a similar thing, but they are very smart. But yeah, I think I'm really impressed with mine. I am as well. It works with my rail system as well, which is really quite handy. Yeah, it's for anyone who's not seen one. They've got 2 rails inside the fridge, but then you've got this like optional kind of extension bar that you can pull outside the chiller itself to allow you to kind of hop something onto the rail and then slide it into the fridge. And so Harry's really lucky in his unit, I suppose if you want to call it that. You've got scaffolding poles, so you can essentially winch something up onto one of those and then hop it onto the extension bar and straight into the chiller. It's a really neat system, isn't it? Yeah. I think if I'd have shot a 77 kilo fallow, I probably, with a lot of time and patience, could have done most of that without lifting it. Yeah. Which would have been good. Whereas in the past, I've really injured myself. Yeah. Trying to lift things. And you definitely would have done with this. 77 kilos is quite something. I can't believe that. I've never shot a fallow deer more than 60 kilos ever. So he was not, and I'm not just saying this, was by far not even one of the biggest. Unbelievable. Yeah. They are eating. Enormous. Like reds. Yeah. When I skinned him off, it had about an inch of fat on his back. Like solid fat. Some bacon. Yeah. Bit of smoked bacon. Deer box style. Yeah. They make some beautiful bacon. They do. Tom and I were very lucky in that Ben Heath, when we interviewed him, gave us each packet of I think it's like apple smoked or sort of
Yeah.
dark, and it's beautiful fallow deer bacon, and it's just amazing.
Yeah.
Like, oh god, I could live off that stuff.
So, we've also, since we last recorded one of these, been to the stalking show.
Yeah.
Big success.
Big success. Yeah, we did a little bit on that. Year 2, even better than year 1.
Yeah.
Obviously, much bigger. Plenty to get on with. Lots of like-minded people there. It was just an all-round great show. Can't wait to see where they sort of go with it. I feel like they're not quite at the kind of plateau of what they're going to get to. Yeah,
No.
I feel like there's more. There's further for them to go with it. At the showground that they use, there's plenty more expansion space for them to put more onto it. But yeah, I mean, compared to like the game fair or any other country show I've been to.
Did you go to the game fair this year?
I don't go to the game fair anymore.
I
I could go to, we can go to a sort of country show around here and it's basically the same thing. There's nothing there for me as a stalker anymore, or a sort of game shooter. Sort of.
So I felt really bad because I got given a free ticket. I spoke to Jose on the phone because he was asking if we were going, and he was doing a game demonstration on the Saturday, I think, with Paul Childerley.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, "You guys should definitely come along. Like, it'd be good to see you. Like, have a chat and have a catch up." And so, part of me was like, "Oh yeah, that does sound fun," but then part of me also thought, like, it's probably a 2-hour drive. It's probably, I don't know, 20 minutes queuing to get in. I'm probably then going to spend, I don't know, 30, 40 quid on just food and drink whilst I'm there. Apart from seeing those guys, I've got nothing else to, like you said, there's nothing else there for me, and then I've got to do all of that to try and get home again.
Yeah.
And I just...
Pay for parking.
Yeah.
Deal with getting in, which is always a pain in the ass.
Part of me just thought, look, I'm a grumpy old man. The stalking show can be my...
Your pilgrimage.
Yeah.
Your game pilgrimage.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you're quite right. I can't see myself going back to the game fair. Because there are lots of other better country shows. There's that Morton show, which is like in a similar place and better, So yeah, the game fair for me is, I'm a bit disillusioned about the whole thing. So
yeah, no, I think I am as well.
Stalking show, can't wait. And we both, well, actually, I haven't been on any sort of outings. I don't think since we last had our pod. But I think you've been on some row outings, haven't you? Tom very cheekily went on sort of like a family holiday. I don't know how he gets away with this. But he went on family holiday, and then presumably halfway through he was like, right, everyone, you're going to the beach, I'm going out deer stalking, and off he went.
Yeah, so I'm very lucky in that my mother-in-law will once a year book an Airbnb somewhere for her children and their respective other halves, of which I am one. And it's normally for like a 2-week period, like somewhere in the UK, and everyone's welcome for as much or as little of the holiday as they want to go for. And this year, my wife and I were able to do the whole 2 weeks. Normally, like before, we'd never managed to do the whole 2 weeks. And I was kind of sat there thinking, well, 2 weeks is a pretty long time in the middle of nowhere in an Airbnb with, not that they're not very nice, but as in like with the same people, if you know what I mean. So it's like, I'm going to need some kind of like escape at some point. And so I out of curiosity just went on the stalking directory and said, look, I'm going to be in Cornwall around this location. Is there anyone nearby who can offer some Roe Buck stalking? Because it was Roe Buck season. And someone came back and was like, yeah, no, I'm 10 minutes around the corner. And I thought, right, that's it, like done, sign me up. And so then very like sheepishly approached my wife and was like, so Thursday night, I'm going to go out deer stalking. And she was like, yeah, okay, cool. Like, honestly, I'm probably as surprised as you that I managed to get away with it. So I'm going to get another mention of it in here. The beauty of the Kiplav, into suitcase, in the boot, came with us. No one knew there was a gun there. And that was it, went out, managed to get myself a Roe Buck. And my wife's family are not kind of shooting people. And so I took the Roe Buck back to the Airbnb, skinned it that night whilst everyone was in bed, quartered it.
Unbelievable. Imagine waking up at like 11 o'clock at night, coming out and seeing you there, like arms covered in blood.
Yeah. It would have been a pretty scary sight because we were in this, like, it was a stunning kitchen and it had a big island in the middle with like a marble worktop, and I was there like hacking away at this roe, like dismembering it and all the rest of it, with the dog sat on the floor looking at me just like drooling.
Did she go with you?
No, she didn't come with me on the stalk, so she was like, so when I got home she was so cross.
I can imagine.
And so anyway, quartered this thing down, chucked it all in the fridge. And luckily it was a big Airbnb, so we had 2 or 3 fridges, so I kind of stuck it away in one of the ones I knew no one would go in. And the next day, everyone of course knew I'd been out to deer stalking. They're like, oh, how was it? And I said, well, it's really good, and if you're up for it, I can cook the whole thing on a barbecue for us tonight. Expecting everyone to be like, no. And everyone was like, yeah, actually, let's do it.
So you did the whole thing?
So we did the whole thing.
What, as in like the whole carcass?
So
like spit roast, like an asado?
No. So
in its components.
So I mean, in fairness, when I said I did the whole thing, I did 1 haunch, 1 shoulder, and 2 loins.
Okay, right.
So 1 shoulder went in the bin; it was a bit smashed up, and the other haunch I diced up, and my brother-in-law took home with him because he enjoyed the venison that much. The plan was to make it into like a curry or something the next day, but actually he wanted to take it home. So butterflied the shoulder and haunch and covered them in like pesto and garlic and salt and pepper and just like chopped them on the barbecue. And then the loins, again, they were just oil, garlic, salt, pepper, straight on the barbecue, quickly like seared them, and that was it, job done. And
beautiful.
It got demolished.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And everyone was like, now we understand why you do this.
Yeah.
Like, this is delicious.
Yeah,
like, there we go.
A nice fresh roe as well.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not that fresh, but like, you know, a nice roe.
Yeah.
What do you
mean not fresh?
Well, I like them a bit more hung.
Do you?
Yeah. You take a different tack to me on the hanging, but I think the longer the better in my view.
Yeah.
But
so
if you're barbecuing something that's already quite tender, then it doesn't actually matter that much.
So that was pretty awesome, and I think so. I can say this quite loudly because my wife's not at home at the moment, so Harry and I can speak freely. But she's about to book to go away with some friends on a riding holiday. So I haven't said anything yet, but I'm sort of hoping that's therefore a free pass at some point.
You have to go on the riding holiday?
No, I don't have to go.
Oh, right, okay.
No, I don't have to go. So, like, perfect scenario, because she said to me, she's like, I'm thinking about doing a riding holiday in somewhere in Africa, and I was like, oh my god, this sounds awful. Like, firstly, I'm not great in the heat, so I was like, Africa, no. Secondly, horseback for a week. I've done it for 2 weeks before, and I wouldn't be surprised if I'm now infertile. Yeah. So it's like the idea of doing that again, no thanks. Mm-hmm. And she was like, but I'm thinking of doing it with some of my girlfriends. So I was like, oh, thank the God, thank the Lord. And I was like, play it cool, and this could work out well for you, Tom. And so once she's kind of got all that booked and planned, I'm gonna try and sneak in book in a trip somewhere at some point. Part of me really wants to go and do mouflon or chamois or something like that.
Ooh.
But I have a feeling it's going to be horrendously expensive. Yeah.
That would be very cool. When is it? When are they going?
Well, so I don't have to go at the same time.
So see. It's like a sort of trade.
Yeah. I'm
seeing you go on holiday, I go on holiday.
Yeah, I'm seeing this as a trade.
Oh, I see. Okay, I didn't realise.
You sound like I could tempt you. If we booked a Deercast, mouflon or chamois hunt, would you be up for it?
If there's anyone listening who either fancies bringing Tom and I along to something, or has any contacts or suggestions, then please let us know.
So, genuinely, yes, please, because I don't even know where, apart from literally Googling chamois hunting, I have no idea where to start.
Well, I was talking to people like Owen and Paul Childerley about their exploits. It just sounds like immense fun. And do you remember we were talking to Sam Thompson about he's going to was he going or did he go to America to try and shoot a black bear for just him and his mate, and they didn't even take any guides or anything, they just went off into the wilderness themselves. I can't remember if they'd been or they'd go. I think they'd been, but they didn't manage to find something.
Okay.
But anyway, stuff like that, I just think, oh yeah, that'd be awesome.
So in the back of my mind, I'm like, now's the best time to do it. Young, fit, able, no like dependence.
Yeah.
Cash, like I'm probably going to have more disposable cash now than I am once you've got children or whatever. I haven't got like a busted knee or ankle yet, so like let's go and do it. But also I'm slightly worried that the world's attitude towards this kind of thing is only going to go one way, and in say 5 or 10 years' time, you may well find a scenario where it's illegal to go to a foreign country and hunt something, or it's illegal to bring back the trophy because you can't now do it with certain African species, from what I understand. So I presume you can still do it with say a chamois or a mouflon, but again, we may have even missed the boat with that.
Yeah, potentially. I think you could still do chamois or mouflon without any problems.
Well, I was thinking just Eurostar, chuck it in your handler. Who would know?
I think you get quite thoroughly searched.
Do you?
Yeah, quite deeply searched. They're the French, especially.
Really?
They're quite ruthless. The French. They're gendarmerie. If you speed by 1 mile an hour, they literally will lynch you. It's pretty rigid.
So I'm quite excited by this, Harry, because I hadn't floated this idea past you before until now, and you seem.
I'm keen as anything. I'm keen as mustard. I'd love to do it. And also, I have been on the sly thinking about. The fact that Tom mentions Kiplauf every other sentence, it's kind of, I feel like it's kind of subliminally influenced me. But I'm going to do it in quite I think I'm going to try and do it in a sort of non-Kiplaufy way. So Bergara, who made a B-15, I think, which is like a kind of pretty standard deer rifle, make a rifle called the B-13, which is like a very cheap and basic Kiplauf, which it is a Kiplauf, it's a falling block action, but it literally is it's the same barrel that they use on their B-15, which is a really good barrel. Like they're really well known, especially in the States, as being quite nice like target rifles. So it's the same like technology on the barrel and stuff, but it's a falling block action, and they do like basically a synthetic Kiplauf. So it's kind of like a Kiplauf, but like a bastardized version of one.
They do a thumb hole stock or a non-thumb hole stock. Which should you go for?
I quite like a thumb hole stock.
Yeah.
I would look at a thumb hole stock, and the benefit of them is that they are about £500 for a brand new rifle. And apparently they're pretty accurate because they're Kiplaufs.
Yeah.
And the caliber choice isn't amazing. Is my only problem.
So what's your choice?
I think it's 243. Like 223, 270, 308, 6.5 Creedmoor, and then I do like 4570 government. I think that's about it. So it's not like a big choice.
So I mean, I guess you're going for the 4570 government.
I would like a 4570 government, but I really want to use this rifle. I can't get another 308. I quite like the idea of having like I quite like the 6.5 by 55 Swedish, but they don't do it, which is slightly irritating. So
they've got 4 different iterations of this rifle. So there may be other caliber choices apart from these ones, but this one's got 308 in 3 different barrel lengths.
Yeah.
300 blackout.
That's it. Yeah, 300 blackout.
8 by 57, 4570, 3006. Jesus Christ,
yeah, that's right, yeah.
and a 243. And I think there might. Because there's 4 different models. You can get a camo or a thumb hole stock.
The camo one is quite galling to look at, I think.
So you wouldn't go camo?
No, I like the black one. Well, they do a green
there's
one.
A green actually. Yeah.
The green one is quite cool. What a few people have done if they've got a 308 with the shortest possible barrel that you can get on it, which is fucking short, and then they put an over barrel moderator on it, so it's like the whole thing is massively short. It looks pretty cool.
Yeah, 6.5 Creedmoor and a 223.
223. What was the rimmed cartridge that they had?
8 by 57.
8 by 57. That would be quite cool, I think. 8 by 57R. I think that's quite a classic. That's quite a classic European cartridge, isn't it?
I don't know. I've never heard of it before. I think I've heard of 7 by 57, but not 8 by 57. So
I think that would be really good for a Kiplauf because it's a rimmed cartridge.
Yeah.
You get a little
out. So
interesting.
I've heard you mention this before, and you
Yes.
massively got my hopes up,
Yes.
and then the idea seems to kind of like peter away. And
No,
so
it's going to happen. It
It is going to happen, is it?
Yeah. Don't worry.
So wait, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months?
I think it's in the medium term. I think I'm going to call it 6 months.
Okay.
I think you can only, you've got to stick to your deer kit budget, otherwise things just get crazy. And your girlfriends and wives get upset with you. So I think by like sort of winter, that's what I'm planning.
So by the opening of the fallow season?
No. I think maybe Christmas present.
Okay.
Christmas present to myself.
Yeah.
So
to be fair, you'll have a good number of carcasses having gone through the chiller by then, so you'll have stashed up some good cash to pay for it.
Make it pay for itself.
Yeah.
Potentially. But anyway, they make a little case for it, so you can pack it down. It's not a briefcase because it's not it's a cheap rifle.
Okay.
But it packs down into a very short little package. So take it off to shoot a mouflon or a bobber or something or whatever.
This trip is sounding epic.
We've got to decide on the quarry.
The Deercast. So I'm easy. I'm about to say I could be guided by you.
I feel like mouflon are a lot of work. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're very difficult. They're very hard work.
I think chamois are too, aren't they?
Chamois are as well, yeah.
So what are you thinking?
I quite like the idea
like
of going
ground squirrel.
No, I'm quite tempted to go do some like boar or something like that.
Are you?
Yeah.
So I think that would be night hunting.
No, driven.
No? Do they? Oh, driven. Okay. Yeah.
I think that'd be quite fun because it's all the sort of tradition around it and the camaraderie, and it's like a whole whole thing.
Are we talking driven boar shooting with the kiplauf?
Maybe not with the kiplauf.
Maybe one of us could double gun with kiplaufs.
Have a loader.
Yeah. Well, the other one just load.
No, you need a double rifle.
Oh my god.
Can you imagine?
Yes. Side by side.
Yeah.
Oh god.
That's what it's quite traditional. I think, in Germany and other bits of Europe. Have a double rifle.
Yeah.
For driven boar. I don't know. I've always wanted to do it. I think it'd be really cool.
And
when we went when we went to the cinema at Holland and Holland.
Yeah.
Check out the video if you haven't seen it. That really got my sort of piqued my interest. So yeah, I don't know.
So if I'm slightly looking at the time, and I can't believe we've been recording for almost 45 minutes already.
Mm.
So just thinking, like, since in the last 6 months since we've recorded a podcast, just the two of us, what's been your most memorable stalking or hunting, shooting, fishing type activity you've done?
I was very kindly invited out by a friend of mine, shout out to Jamie, to do some early season Roe Buck stalking on some very lovely ground that's literally around the corner from where we are at the minute. And I managed to shoot a hat trick of roe and muntjac. And it was one of those beautiful evenings where it was just like, lovely summer, still. It was like new ground that I'd never been to. Bit that I'd driven through quite a lot but never actually knew and never actually been into. And it was just one of those very kind of magical evenings where it was properly challenging stalking. Had really good fun. So, I think that. How about you?
So, again, I've been really, really lucky this season. A lot of people have been very, very kind and have invited me out. And I'm struggling to pick just one, but one would be, again, a mutual friend of ours, James, said to me, I've got some roe stalking. I've got some roe stalking land. It's inside the M25, but don't panic because it produces some absolutely stunning roe buck. So it was a slightly surreal experience, like beetling down the M40, going like closer and closer to London with a gun in the back of the car, thinking, right, we're going to go out roe buck stalking. And like sure enough, we did arrive in like this kind of like little island of like paradise within the M25, just completely unspoiled, surrounded by woodland on all sides. So you just wouldn't have known where you were. And it was actually one of the quickest stalks I've ever had in my life, because we parked the car up, got out, and you know when you sort of get out and you pull out your thermal, and I always like switch it on and I look through it to check it's working. As I was doing that, I literally just happened to, as I held it up to my eye, see like something white hot straight in front of me. And I said to James, I was like, pretty sure there's a buck there. And he's like, oh no, there's a big pile of old disused tyres, like don't worry, that catches it, run out every time. I was like, I'm pretty sure it's moving. And he looks at the binoculars and was like, oh, that is a Roe Buck. And he was like, let's nip the other side of the hedge, kind of walk down towards it, and we'll come out on the corner of the field, and we'll be able to see it. So sure enough, we did, and it was stood there, I don't know, 75 metres away, like grazing along the hedge, like straight opposite us. And it was just a beautiful, like sunny evening. We were both just like stood there having a chat with this Roe Buck, completely unaware that we were there, and we're just able to watch it, having a nice time. And true, exactly as he had said, it had the most enormous head in terms of ridiculously tall. I'll have to show you when we finish recording this. And he was such a gentleman, and he was like, look, if you want to shoot it, it's yours. If you want to pass, that's absolutely fine. Won't kind of hold it against you. Whereas I've been out with some people in the past, everything you come across, you've got to kill, like you've got to shoot it. And that was that. So shot that, and he ended up on the barbecue that weekend as well. So it was absolutely stunning.
Very nice.
So yeah, I couldn't have asked for more. And like I said, it's difficult to choose because I've been invited by a huge number of people this year for some odd reason, I don't know why. And it's just been really nice to share those kind of memories with people. Really, it's been awesome.
Yeah, that's the lovely thing about the stalking community. It's sort of sharing what you have, and discovering new bits of ground, and all of those experiences are so memorable.
Yeah. We should. Well, I don't know if this is going to massively depress us, but we should mention that we potentially almost had another bit of ground come to us for some stalking, and we both jointly decided that we would actually start a syndicate on it. And we got quite a lot, I'd say pretty much all of the way down the wire with actually getting the syndicate up and running.
Yeah.
In terms of, we had recruited members, we'd interviewed them, they'd done their shooting tests, they'd all provided us copies of their paperwork, some had even paid us. High seats were all up and ready to go, larder was all serviced and ready to go, and then very sadly, for their own reasons, the landowner pulled the plug on it, which was pretty heart-wrenching actually. But we're grown-ups, we'll move on.
Yeah, exactly. It was a bit of a shame to have not been able to go ahead with it, because it would have been lovely, even just to have a nice group of guys, to sort of go out stalking with and all that sort of thing. And it's good. It would have been quite local to us, so it was sort of quite a beautiful ground. So a bit of a shame, but these things do unfortunately happen. But we've learned how to sort of set it up, and it's quite a useful experience to have in general. In terms of, we had an awful lot of interest for it, I think, mainly because where we are in the world, and you've got sort of London on your doorstep, Oxford, Henley-on-Thames, lots of places where there are lots of people who don't necessarily want to have a chiller and their own disposal of carcasses. They would quite like just to come and shoot and leave carcasses on the estate, sort of thing. So, but yeah, it was a bit of a shame. So but we'll see.
But on more positive notes, we've had some awesome podcast guests. I think since we last recorded an episode, and actually some of those people won't necessarily know about because we haven't released the episodes yet. So Paul Childerley, Owen Beardsmore, who we've already mentioned,
the fantastic Owen Beardsmore,
we're doing the BDS either next week or the week after, I can't remember, and then either the week after that or something similar to that. We have Mr. County Deer Stalking.
Peter Jones.
Very
kindly. Who we met at the stalking show.
We did, yeah. And I forget who else we've kind of done or got lined up, and it's been a really nice, like, steady stream, hasn't it? Of like guests coming in and people very happy and willing to kind of take part, which which is really nice. Makes our lives easier. Whereas I think certainly at the beginning when we were first doing this, I can understand why people were skeptical, cautious about coming on our podcast. Whereas now, I think when you can say to them, "Oh, well, we've had the likes of XYZ on before, we've done this many episodes, etc."
I mean, it always amazes me, to be fair, that people are so happy just to kind of give up all their time and come and do an episode with us. Because it is quite daunting, I think, just to sort of be like, oh yeah, you know, come and talk to us two random blokes and chat rubbish with us for an hour. But yeah, the generosity of the people, you know, who we've interviewed some quite, I'd say, you know, high profile people within the stalking world, and you know, Paul and people like that, and Owen, so willing to give up their time for nothing, basically. So thank you to them, and yeah, it's sort of a testament to the friendliness of the people in the stalking world, really.
I'm really looking forward to our chat with BDS because it was one of those like really nice scenarios where we rang them to see if they were interested in coming on, and apparently, I mean, whether they were just saying this, but we were on their list to ask if they could come on because they wanted to come on and talk about the new venison quality assurance scheme. And actually, it's, being perfectly honest, it's something that when I first read it, I looked at it and was like, I'm not sure about this. Like, I've got some comments, queries, criticisms, etc. So actually to get them on firsthand to be able to explain it, I think is going to be really, really cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And they have a difficult job on their hands in designing such a quality assurance scheme. And maybe we should reserve judgment until we've had a proper conversation with them about it, because I imagine it's probably quite a lot more complicated than we think to put something like that into place. But it does seem quite complicated, I'd say.
Yeah. Well, I guess with these things, you're never going to appease everyone.
No.
And also, I guess, and this might be a really unpopular opinion to have, the way the world is going, everything needs to be slightly more professional and slightly more squeaky clean, and I like it or not, I'm not saying this is what I want to happen with the world, I'm just saying it just seems to be what is happening, and so therefore as deer stalking we probably at some point have to make the decision of, do we get left behind and just accept that and therefore venison doesn't get into the hands of the public, or do we move with the times in order to try and mean that product does get into the hands of the public. And that's the only thing when I was kind of stewing on this the other day, was thinking that, like you said, the BDS have got a pretty impossible job, but at the same time, are they doing this for, I'm going to coin this from Hot Fuzz, the greater good?
The greater good.
In terms of going, yeah, we know this is going to be a load of venison, stalkers can't sell venison to people, we know loads of people won't be able to sign up, but it will mean the bulk of venison can maybe get into supermarkets or into more restaurants. I don't know.
Yeah. I think the counter argument to that is that, and it was made actually when we had a sort of local stalkers meeting the other day, and a chap sort of mentioned that to the consumer, how much is quality a driving factor when it comes to venison? Because, you know, I suppose you could compare it to something like the red tractor, you know, symbol on a piece of meat. I think I'm sceptical how much difference that would make to a consumer to pick a piece of venison off the shelf and say, I'll have this because it's got the venison quality assurance scheme. However, I think what it will maybe help with is getting it into the supermarkets, because I think a lot of their hesitance, I mean, I don't know, I'm not involved, but my suspicion is that because there are so many variables in deer stalking, and there are so many different suppliers, and it's a bit of it's not a Wild West, but it's, you know, it's certainly less regulated than the majority of raw meats that are out there. You know, think about the hoops you have to jump through to put an abattoir together and sell beef to anybody. You know, we get a pretty easy ride in game. But yeah, I think I question how much a consumer of venison actually is worried by the quality of the meat, because it already has quite good credentials, I think, from a sort of from that perspective, in the sense of, like, a lot of people buy special eggs or meat because it's organic, which I understand, because it means that the animal has had potentially a happier and more fulfilling life and better for the planet and all of those things. But venison is inherently wild, unless it's farmed, obviously, and has a lot of those things already built into it. So actually, the only difference you're talking about with normal wild venison and the quality assurance venison is that it's had perhaps slightly more rigorous treatment during the process of, and I query how much a consumer actually thinks about that sort of stuff.
Well, I tend to agree, because I mean, working in farming, like the number of times you see surveys done of the British public of, okay, well, what does red tractor, for example, mean?
Yeah.
And I think one of the latest surveys I saw was 75-80% of people thought, well, it just means the product's British, which is like, no, it doesn't. That's got nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
It's the fact that it's had to adhere to various different quality steps along the way to mean that it hits a certain criteria.
Yeah.
And so the British, whatever it's called, venison quality assurance scheme, people may end up thinking exactly the same thing. Oh, well, it just means it's British. It doesn't mean there's any quality or assurance to it at all.
No, exactly. So it's I think a lot of people make the argument that the money might be better spent on marketing and trying to get the British public to adopt venison more widely, which people like I think it's a Country Food Trust are doing some quite good things in that sort of realm, and there's been a lot of stuff in the papers about it, and it is all moving in the right direction. But I think it takes a lot of time to change people's attitudes towards what they eat, especially with veganism and vegetarianism and the sort of bigger dietary trends. I think we can explore this deeper with the BDS.
Yeah, and it's a real shame, because we did have a game dealer potentially on the hook to come and, pardon the pun, come and talk to us about just sort of like general venison processing and sales and all the rest of it. But I do understand. I think they were nervous about coming on a podcast, because I think two deer stalkers talking to them on a podcast, they thought they were just going to get ripped to shreds over why they don't pay us £5 a kilo, and so they cried off. But if there's anyone listening who knows a game dealer who'd be happy to come on and talk to us about it, I think we're nice people, Harry.
Yeah,
we're not going to give in on a hard time. I think the whole point of this podcast really is just to kind of spread the word about every different part of deer stalking, and so we wouldn't be doing the job if we didn't get someone from that side to come in and talk to us as well, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, Ben Heath has come on, and I feel like didn't give him a hard time at all. No. And actually, it was a really, really interesting conversation, I think. One of my favourite podcasts we've done, from just to understand his perspective on and just understand a bit more the costs that are involved in running an operation like he has, does give you a lot more sympathy, I think, for people who are involved in that side of things. So that would be really interesting.
Yeah.
Let us know if anyone's interested. Anyone's brave enough to come on and face our wrath.
Yeah.
Would be very nice.
So, I'm looking at the time. It is 58 minutes since we started recording. The time has flown by.
Always does.
We've covered 6 months in 60 minutes. Am I forgetting any? I'm sure we're going to click finish on this, and we're going to suddenly go, oh my god, we forgot to mention X, Y, Z. But am I being?
I don't think so. I mean, it's obviously I didn't do that much roe stalking, so my summer is kind of a bit of a holiday for me from deer stalking.
Yeah.
So I think the next 6 months will be the busy season.
Hard work.
Hard work. I'm looking forward to getting a bit more involved in it and things. And probably have much more to share in another 5 or 6 months' time.
Yeah. I think I've had a very lucky summer, but equally at the same time there's probably only so many Roe Buck stories people want to hear. I think I'll try and do a video for YouTube at some point with perhaps some of the best or most memorable heads that perhaps have had this summer, and kind of recount 1 or 2 stories, but we'll do that sort of separately rather than boring you all to tears with it. And I think on that note, there's just one sort of final plea from me, guys, and that's that if you like what we're putting out there, please do subscribe. We put a video out on YouTube a few weeks ago now, sort of saying that neither Harry or I did this to get famous or rich, but at the same time, when we go to I don't know, manufacturers, potential guests, or anybody like that, and say, look, would you mind coming on the podcast, or could you send us something to have a play with? They definitely do look at how big our following is and make a decision from there. And so, if you are enjoying what we do, then please help us out by subscribing. Other than that, I think please comment, like, subscribe, and do all those other good things. And we'll hopefully catch you guys soon.